Hi guys, this is Nu-Trix, the synth guy. Today it's another video about quick tips on how to use the TR-09. That can be applied also to the TR-08 and actually how to use them with Volca beats. What I'm going to show you about the Volca beats can be applied to all of the Volcas because they're using the same logic and how they sync. Today's question is how to sync a TR-09 to a Volca beats from Korg. And there's actually two ways. The first way to sync the two of them is using MIDI, classic way, works really well. And the second one is a little bit more creative, is using the trigger out to trigger the sync in into the Korg Volca, and how to use this correctly and how to use this in a creative fashion also. So let's check it out. The first option is using MIDI. So the simple one is actually taking the MIDI out of the TR-09 and we hook the only MIDI connector of the Korg Volca Beats, the MIDI in, and that's it. By doing so, Roland TR-09 is sending the MIDI sync all the time, and this one is by default, when receiving it, slaves to it. So if I press play, it will play. But what I want to do now is I press play here, and they're synced. If I change the tempo here, it slows down. If I bring the volume down, I only hear this one. Bring the volume back up. Bring this one down. Nothing left, just the TR. Bring this one back up. They're in sync. Stop, they stop, start at the beginning of the beat. So every time I press start, it goes back to the beginning of the pattern for both of them. On time. Okay, simple, and it works. If I press play on this one, it's free running. Not tempo-wise, but free running for the start time, and it will still follow the tempo that I have here. So if I just play this, still going to slave to the tempo, okay? And then start putting it sync again. That's the first way. The second way to sync the TR-09 and the Korg Volca Beats is a little bit more trickier, and it's fun. It's using the trigger out, and when I use the trigger out by default, you know that you can only do that with something like the TR-09 or the TR-08 if we talk about the boutique synths. And then you put that in sync, the in sync of the Korg Volca Beat. If I press play now, it's waiting. It's waiting to receive any type of sync signal. If I press play here, that's just weird. So what's happening now? There is a problem in the speed that the trigger is being sent. So the sync that it receives is faster than the one it's waiting for. So there's a difference in the way it's being sent. So let's go back here and check exactly trigger out. Okay, I'm going to go instrument select. If I press play, I'm going to take out every two. So what's different now? Now it's on time. The difference is that now I can only see it when it plays. You see play. Okay, I need to go back. You see when you press start again, this one start on the first step of the sequence. This doesn't. This just continue where it was. So you have to stop, press play, and then now it's back on the first one. What I have here is one trigger every two notes. So basically, I am sending a trigger every eighth of a note. If I double this, you hear the result? It's just too fast. Now it's back to the speed it's supposed to receive. So the interval between the trigger of the sync information for the Korg Volcas are at the speed of 1/8 of a note, whereas I need to follow the same speed. What can be cool though is I can play with that. I can say, okay, I'm going to jump one here, not use this one, not use this one, and I'm going to double these. Or not this one. Can be creative in the way you're going to use these. You hear it? It's just creating new beats because this is when it's triggering, and when it's not, it's basically waiting for the next step. See, if I only do like this, and then if I do nothing, see, it's waiting. So it can really be interesting, and it goes way beyond the logic of just syncing these two together. You can just, if you just want to sync, you put one every second step, so you have 1/8 of a note for each of them, and it will just sync on time. But again, when you press start, it's going to follow where it was in the sequence, so it will not go back to the beginning. So that's the bad part, but that's the logic. It's just waiting for a sync. It's just waiting to say play next step. So that's it. You know, the advantage of the MIDI sync is that it's stable, and when you press start, you always start from the beginning of the pattern in both devices, so it's always really well in sync and it works really well. If you use the trigger using the sync in, it will stop. It will wait for the trigger to come in to actually play anything. So it's going to really be in slave mode for that. But there's no message in this trigger that says where the trigger is in time. So there's no information to say where do we start from. So the Volca, if you press stop and you press play again, it will start from where it was unless you stop and you press play again on the Volca also. So that's kind of where it's a little bit buggy, but in a way it's also why it's so interesting to use this, because it becomes really creative, because you can create patterns, or you can trigger the pattern in a different way, so every time it plays not entirely the same thing. Now imagine that you trigger the beat, but you don't trigger 16 steps. You know, you trigger 13 steps and you see what it does. So every pattern is a little bit different because it doesn't start on the same place. Now it can be off in a way, but it also can be really creative in polyrhythmic rhythms and stuff like that. So check it out, see what you can do with that. But these are the two ways to sync these two devices. As always, if you like what I do, thumb up. I honestly like the fact that you're sending me questions, because it gives me a lot of information on how to give you tips like this. So if you have got any other question about how to use your devices and I can help, I'll be more than happy to, to give you hints on this. This week I'm going to work on a walkthrough of the Roland SE02 and the Novation circuit. These are really cool devices, totally different one from the other, but these are the box I have on my table right now that I'm learning, and I'm going to show you how they work. They're really cool devices to play with. So, see you next time. Cheers.